Hey, Shalom, Akim, Shalom. First off, I want to give all praise and glory to Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Bakoa Kodash. I want to send double honor to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. I want to send peace, love, and salutations to Yakim out there pushing the word, sincerity, and truth. This right here is going to be a World War III algorithm update. We had on the previous live show that we did on, what was it, Sunday? I mean, it might have been Saturday. We did a live show Saturday with the elders and all the brothers. But we was talking about the issue that's going on currently in Syria. The issue that's currently going on in Syria with the Turkish army attacking the Kurdish armies, and basically all our war is going on in the northern part of Syria, along the in the general vicinity around Aleppo in an area called Afrin. This has great implications because of the alliances that each side has. Now, Turkey is a NATO member and has trade deals with the with those NATO bloc countries and in Europe, and also has trade deals with Russia and the West. So it is going to be interesting to see how this plays out. This is definitely something that Akyam need to pay attention to. Why? Because this region that is being affected is talked about numerous times within biblical prophecy. Okay, so I want to go over a few of these articles. I want to touch on a couple of talking points and read a couple of scriptures and update brothers concerning this issue. Lord willing, this is edifying. Please post any comments, scriptures, or any pieces of information that you have in the comment section below, and hopefully it comes out well for all those who are paying attention. Let's start off with just getting an idea of the region that we're talking about. All right, so this right here, when we look, this is Syria. You see, this is Turkey. Okay. Now, when you want to talk about this area of Turkey, when you read in the scriptures, it talks about Arawak. That's talking about Turkey in this area. Okay. Aleppo is this city right here in the northern part of Syria. We see the nations that border Syria: Iraq, Jordan, Palestine. Okay. You have right here the state of Israel. You have Iran over here. Okay. So all these areas are being affected by a civil war that is splitting and basically cutting Syria in two. Okay. Now, the Kurdish armies are mostly in these regions. Currently, the main part of the battle is happening in this city right here called Afrin. So this region right here, you have Kurdish, what's called the Syrian armies or rebel armies that are supported by the United States and the West in this region. Okay, Turkey wants this area to be free of those rebels. They consider those Kurdish inhabitants as terrorists. Okay, also President Bashar al-Assad, the president of Syria, feels like all those people who are in the region of Syria are terrorists. It feels like they're all illegally conducting military operations and settlement building in Syrian territory, which is terrorism towards their democratically set up state. Okay? All right, so this is the region and this is the area where all the fighting is happening. Okay? You see the major cities like Tell Brothers, Aleppo is where you had the Masoretic text be found and stuff like that. When you look in 1099 AD, so I think around that time, 1099 AD, you had those texts. This is a very, the Bible talks about, we know about Damascus and the prophecy of Damascus being destroyed. And you see how its proximity in these regions are very important according to the scripture. Okay? Now that we have that understanding, brothers can pull those maps up and go in deeper if they want to. I want to read a couple of articles, but first, let's read Revelation, the 16th chapter. This is Revelation, the 16th chapter, and I'm going to start at verse 12. It says, "And the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared. And I saw three unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet, for they are the spirits of devils, working miracles which go forth unto the kings of the earth and the whole world to gather them to battle of the great day of the Almighty. Okay, so you read in the 12th verse, it says, pour a vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up. And it's just like we just showed you, the Euphrates River cuts right through Iraq, through Syria, right in this region, into Turkey, where all of these battles are currently happening right now. Okay, so we see these nations, Turkey, Syria, Iranian trained fighters, U.S. Supplied armaments, especially down here towards Damascus, all being prepared to fight in this region for the World War III. Okay, so let's read a few things, man. Let's read a few things. This is an article back in March 8th, 2017. All right, so March 8th, 2017 is on geopolitics.co. It says confirmed. Turkey using Euphrates River as weapon versus Syria and Iraq. Okay, as reported earlier, the Erdogan government in Turkey is cutting the water supply to Syria and Iraq to put these countries under pressure as talks in Astana was held to end Daesh and restore peace in Syria, while Russia and Iran are recovering more territories away from Daesh control. The international community should start condemning this act of genocide right before everyone's eyes. It says thirst wars. Turkey applies political pressure by cutting off water to Syria, right? Syrian Kurdish media has recently reported that Turkey has cut off flows of the Euphrates River into Syria, depriving the nation of one of its primary sources of water. Okay, so we look in this region, we can see that Turkey has the ability to cut these waters off to prevent the Kurds from being able to utilize these resources. Very, very common whenever you have war. You cut off trade routes, you cut off routes towards for resources. This puts strains on your army. This puts strains on the limited funds that these smaller nations may have, okay? Just like the scripture has said, stated, you know, it says the water thereof was dried up so that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared. And whenever they do this, when they cut these waters off, they're able to travel across these pathways with big tanks, big trucks, and large troops, and move through these lands more easily by cutting off the dams. Okay, so all of these things are kind of happening. Here's a picture of one of the dams. Okay, so when we read here, it says, according to the Kurdish Hawar News Agency, Turkey cut water supplies to Syria around February 23rd, which subsequently forced a hydroelectric plant in the Trishren Dam to shut down, while also significantly reducing water levels on its associated reservoir. The dam supplied both water and power to key parts in northern Syria, such as the city of Manbij, I hope I'm saying it right, and other parts of the predominantly Kurdish Kobani canton. The dam is one of several major dams along the Euphrates rivers. Downstream from Tushin lies Tapka Dam and its reservoir lake Assad, which supplies Aleppo with most of its power and drinking water, as well as irrigation water for over 640,000 hectares or 2,500 square miles of farmland. Okay, you see that, and so you see how that can cause power outages, can cause famine. Okay, people die, people not being able to get any drinking water, people dying of thirst. All these things happen whenever you have war going on, man. So when the scriptures talk about these famines and plagues, these are the things that can happen to force those types of plagues. So since back in February 2017, these things have already been escalating, right? Now, this is an article when you read on the 17th of May 2017, it says Syria war. Turkey will never accept U.S. alliance with Kurds, Erdogan, okay? So we read about this, It says Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has indicated after talks in Washington that he will never accept a U.S. alliance with Kurdish forces fighting in Syria. There is no place for terrorist organizations in the future of our region, he said at a joint news conference with President Donald Trump. He was referencing the Syrian Kurdish YPG militia following a U.S. decision earlier this month to arm the group. Despite this, the two leaders pledged to strengthen bilateral relations. We have had a great relationship and we will make it even better, President Trump said. Trump also reiterated the commitment of the United States to the security of our NATO ally Turkey and the need to work together to confront terrorism in all its forms. Okay? Um, Turkey views the YPG military wing of the Kurdish Democratic Union Party as terrorists and wants to stop them taking more territory in Syria. So the United States have been funding this YPG army, and this YPG army has been taking territories, fighting the Syrian armies, and basically the U.S. wants to keep that relationship because of oil and pipeline deals that we know were planned to run through Syria. Now hold on just one second. Let me see if I can pull a map up of those plans. Okay. Right. So when we look at these proposed pipeline deals for the future, you see how they've listed it as a Russian-backed pipeline from Iran, Iraq through Syria, right? This red line here. But you see how this one, the U.S.-backed pipeline, the Qatar-Turkey pipeline, how it goes from Qatar and bounces all the way up. You see how it goes right through this current region that's being fought over right now? And so you see where the U.S. has funded ISIS down here in Damascus. They have ISIS over here in this region over here in Syria. You got the state of Israel really wants to come and take over this region right here that I'm circling right there. All right. And currently you have destabilization that's happening in this area and region right here. All right. This area called Afrin and Aleppo. So politically, if we put the pieces together, we can see why the U.S. wouldn't mind war breaking out between Turkey and the Kurds. And you can kind of see how this is kind of panning out to continue to have these nations battle each other to control the chief natural resource in the world right now, which is oil. Oil and natural gas are the chief natural resources because those are those create energy, and you need energy in order to grow your country. Okay, so now we see these battles happening. Okay, so all these nations are being prepared and gathered. All right, I want to read this. Let me see if I can get the scripture. Yeah, this is Jeremiah chapter 49, verse 14. It says, "I have heard a rumor from the Lord, and the ambassador sent unto the heathen, saying, Gather ye together and come against her, and rise up to battle. For lo, I will make thee small among the heathen, and despised among men. Thy terribleness have deceived thee, and the pride of thine heart, O thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock, that holdest the height of the hill. Though thou shouldest make thy nest as high as the eagle, I will bring thee down from thence, saith the Lord." Talking about the nation of Edom. The nation of Edom, so-called white man, this European so-called white man, or the Edomites, and they rule America and all these Western powers that are causing and fomenting these wars to go on. These Edomites in Syria and in Israel that are basically making all these wars happen. These nations are going to come up against them, man. Okay? And so the U.S. is saying, oh, cease and desist. But we see how this is just creating more and more problems. Okay? So let's get back. I'm going to read some more of these articles just to continue on the point. Let me go ahead and close out a couple of these tabs so I don't get distracted by them. Okay? So here we go. Let's read. I'm going to briefly read this one. This is on telegraph.co. It says, Turkey launches offensive against Syrian city held by U.S.-backed Kurdish forces. Turkish warplanes struck residential parts of Syria's Afrin on Saturday, forcing people to hole up in their homes and shelters. Now, it had been rumored for some time now that these wars were going to be breaking out. So you had all these people in these Kurdish inhabited region, in these regions that the Kurds stay at. You had all these people trying to move their families out. But what happened? The roads were cut off. The scripture said, man shall desire to go into this city and he ain't going to be able to. That's what's happening right now. That's what's happening. These people are not able to move out of this region. Meanwhile, war's breaking out. So that's a terrifying thing, man. Okay? It says, as Ankara launched an offensive to smash positions held by U.S.-backed Kurdish forces. Heavy Mustafa, a top member of the civilian administration that governs the city in the northwest of Syria, said several wounded people had arrived in hospitals. As of this moment, our brave armed forces have started the aerial offensive to eliminate the PYD and PKK and the Daesh elements in Afrin, said Turkish Prime Minister Binali Yildirim said, referring to the Kurdish Democratic Union Party and the Kurdish Workers' Party, respectively, and using an Arabic acronym for the Islamic State group. Okay? Let me see if there's more on this. Yeah, it's just showing you this area of Syria, showing you Afrin. Okay? Where all of these things are happening, which is dope. Okay? So that's all I wanted to read on that. I'm going to move on to the next one. Now, this article here is this. I don't want that one. Where is it at? Where is that article at? Let's see. Yeah, here it is. All right, this is in the BBC.com. It says Syria offensive. Turkish troops capture villages in Afrin. This was 3 hours ago or earlier today. It says Turkish forces have captured a number of villages in northwestern Syria on the third day of an offensive to oust Kurdish fighters, Turkish media report. Troops accompanied by allied Syrian rebels reportedly seized control of several areas in Afrin on Monday. Turkish President Erdogan said he would not step back in the assault following talks with Russia. Turkey considers the Kurdish YPG militia it is targeting in the region to be a terrorist group. We are determined Afrin will be sorted out, Mr. Erdogan said in a live television broadcast on Monday. We will take no step back, he said, adding, we spoke about this with our Russian friends. We have an agreement. So basically, they saying that Russia is just letting his hands go, is taking his hands off this one and allowing them to take control of that region. So you can see how these NATO members are leaving the U.S. alliance and teaming up with Russia, Iran, China, and those nations. Okay? And so what we were reading in Jeremiah, how these other nations are being gathered against Babylon the Great, which is the daughter of Babylon, which is America. We see these things happening, man. Okay? It's, let's see. What happened over it says on Monday, the Afrin villages of Shankal, Korn, Bali, Adama, Manly were reportedly captured along with rural areas including Kita, Kordo, and Babno, according to the Turkish state-run Anadolu news agency. And so it's showing all these regions, you know, where things is going down, okay? What's the background to the offensive? Turkish ground troops, assisted by rebels from the Free Syrian Army, crossed into northern Syria on Sunday as part of its offensive called Operation Olive Branch. So the Free Syrian Army is a group that was funded by the U.S. to go against Syria and President Assad. So now you have those groups running amok, causing war in Syria, man. All right, and all these were U.S. allies, and basically Turkey is doing something that's seemingly against what the U.S. wants. But we have to look into this. We have to understand that all of this what we're reading can be propaganda, man. What if the U.S. wants Turkey to attack the Kurdish army just for destabilization purposes? We never know, man. We never know. But we know that the Most High is putting into the minds of these people to battle and to fight. Okay? It says Mr. Erdogan has vowed to crush the YPG very quickly, but the U.S. is urging Turkish restraint in order to avoid civilian casualties. See that? But as we just read in the previous article, as we read up earlier, they said they ain't holding back. We ain't taking no steps back. So they talking about restraint. We ain't using no restraint, man. Just as the scripture said. Okay. It says Turkish Prime Minister Yildirim said the aim was to establish a 30-kilometer safe zone deep inside of Syria. Plans for the operation were believed to have accelerated when U.S. officials said earlier this month that it would help the Syrian Democratic Forces alliance, which is dominated by the YPG, build a new border security force to prevent the return of ISIS. Some 25,000 pro-Turkey fighters have joined the offensive, rebel commander Maj Yasser Abdul Rahim told Reuters. It is not clear how many Turkish soldiers are on the ground. Turkey's military said it had hit 45 targets on Sunday as a part of its campaign. It earlier said dozens of airstrikes had taken out 153 targets belonging to Kurdish militants. All right? Saying 18 civilians have been killed in that region. It says, how have the key players reacted? It says, Western powers, including the U.S. and France, are urging restraint. They warned us before they launched the aircraft that they were going to do it in consultation with us, and we are working now on the way ahead. U.S. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis told reporters on Sunday. We'll work this out, he added. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad condemned the incursion, saying the brutal Turkish aggression on Afrin was part of Ankara's policy of support for terrorism. Slaki, I'm gonna have to handle some business. Where was I? I'm going to continue reading here. It says Russia is a key. It says Syrian President Bashar al-Assad condemned the incursion, saying the brutal Turkish aggression on Afrin was part of Ankara's policy of support of terrorism in Syria. Russia, a key ally of President Assad, also said it was concerned by the news and withdrew some of its troops based in the area. Moscow will demand Turkey halt its military operations at the UN meeting, according to Russian Senator Franz Klitschkovich, which is the deputy chairman of the Defense and Security Committee. Iran, another Syria ally, called for a quick end to the operation to prevent a deepening of the crisis in Syria. So you see all of these other nations that are allied with Syria, Turkey, and these Kurds, they're still trying to figure out necessarily what to do with these skirmishes and these battles. These regional wars and conflicts can easily and quickly escalate to a larger battle. We've seen that in other world wars, man. Wars take time. They don't just pop off overnight, man. I like to use the example of World War II. When you go back and read World War II, you read that it took time for this conflict to develop, man. All right. So, like, even when you read this in World War II, it says World War II was the deadliest conflict in human history, marked by 50 million to 85 million fatalities, most of which were civilians in the Soviet Union and China. It included massacres and deliberate genocide of the Holocaust, strategic bombing, starvation, disease, and the first use of nuclear weapons in history. The Empire of Japan aimed to dominate Asia and the Pacific and was already at war with the Republic of China in 1937, but the war is generally said to have begun on September 1st, 1939. You see, Japan already had major conflicts and issues going on way before what we understand as World War II. Okay, it took time for those things to kind of come together. Now, if you go and you read the background to this bad boy, um, let's see. Let me see. Where's a good point to make? Both Bolshevik, pre-war events. You had the Italian invasion of Ethiopia, Spanish Civil War, Japanese invasion of China, Soviet-Japanese border conflicts. All of these things were happening before a huge conflict kicked off what we understand as World War II. Okay, even here it says timeline for World War II. The start of the war in Europe is generally held to be 1st of September 1939, beginning with the German invasion of Poland. Britain and France declared war on Germany 2 days later. The dates for the beginning of war in the Pacific include the start of the Second Sino-Japanese War on the 7th of July 2017, or even the Japanese invasion of Manchuria on the 19th of September 1931. See that? So you had a decade of skirmishes and conflicts before what we really generally understand as World War II, man. Okay? So, I just wanted to bring it up as a point. It's like, man, when we see these conflicts and these wars happening like this, there's a build up to a major conflict, okay? And we seeing it develop, okay? Back in Revelation 9:14, saying to the sixth angel which had the trumpet, loose the four angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. And the four angels were loose, which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year, for to slay the third part of man. So the major part of these, the spirit of the Most High, putting it on men to basically cause the big heated battle to go off, man. That time is appointed, and we seeing things lead up into that, man. Okay, bigger pieces are being played in the whole theater, man. In the whole theater of things, okay? I just wanted to read this just as an update. It says, breaking, Syrian president slams Turkey's operation in Afrin. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad met with the president of Iran's Council for Foreign Relations, Kamal Karzi, in Damascus today. During the meeting, Assad and Karzai discussed a number of topics in the region, including the ongoing Turkish offensive in Afrin canton of northwest Aleppo. The Syrian president slammed Turkey's invasion of Afrin, claiming their aggression in this region is similar to their main political policy, which is built on supporting terrorism. Both Assad and his Turkish counterpart, Recep Erdogan, have traded several insults recently, and both presidents claiming that the other supports terrorism in the region. Okay, so that's causing these two nations to go back and forth. Because if Turkey continues to do what they do, what if Syria attacks a Turkish warplane? Who's the U.S. going to support? Who's Russia going to support? What is going to happen? We don't know. We'll have to see. There's so many different ways that this can cause an all-around breakout. Okay. So I just wanted to do a quick World War III Algo update. This is very interesting, and bro, I mean it's just a lot. There's a lot of things going on, man. The Kurds calling Russia. So this is a cool little website, man. I might have to come here more often to check out, some of the things. More than 1,000 women flee Afrin. Turkey didn't promise Russia to limit military operations in Syria to Afrin. So things are popping off minute by minute, man. You have to just kind of keep your nose to the ground on this stuff, and just kind of see how it's gonna build, man. But Lord willing, this was edifying for you, Akian, man. Please add any comments or any scripture in the comment section below, man. Once again, I want to give all praise and glory to Yahweh Shem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakwakudash. Double honors to the apostle and elders of Great Millstone. Much peace, love, and salutation to you. I came out there pushing the word, sincerity, and truth. Shalom.